Hi and welcome to Peanut Butter Jelly Co. Today I thought I'd talk about things I bought new in 2020. Now, as a zero waster, I tend to not buy anything new really. I always look for secondhand, and then if I do have to buy it new, I do try and look for sustainable options. But as a student, the budget is usually tight, so I'm not usually able to afford the more sustainable options. So there are a couple of things I bought in 2020 new that I do regret, but there are also some decisions that I made that were kind of okay and stuff that I don't regret at all. So I'm going to share those with you. Now, of course, I can include everything that I bought. Of course, food and body products and washing products don't really count. But there were a lot of small things that I obviously didn't keep track of all of them. There's probably like a piece of clothing maybe. I'm going to share with you those now, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Being a zero waster, you get the perks of always feeling very guilty whenever you buy something new or in plastic, and I experience that severely. I have huge guilt whenever I buy something, especially on an impulse, which I still haven't got under control, as you will see. So there are quite a few more regrets, or heavier regrets, than there are good new purchases. So let's just get right into it. And first of all, it's probably my biggest regret, and it's the most random thing, and it's the biggest impulse, and it's not even that big of an issue, but I purchased this skirt and it was on sale and it was very pretty. It's very much my style, but it's probably one of the only pieces of clothing other than something else I'm going to show that was purchased new. I haven't worn it yet because I did buy it during the winter time, and I am going to get good use out of it, but I feel like I could have searched for something and found it at a similar price secondhand anyway. Next thing is this material cutter. I really wanted to get this because I need to improve on my crafting. As you'll see, there's quite a pattern of improving my cooking and crafting that made me purchase some of these things new without really thinking about it too much. I don't think there would have been a good zero waste alternative to this, as I don't think there was a lot selling, and I feel like it'd be a bit dodgy buying one of these secondhand because of the bluntness maybe. I haven't used it too much, but then I haven't been crafting much, so maybe this regret isn't as big of a regret as I thought, but we'll have to see. Next thing are these glass and bamboo containers. They were on sale in Lidl because the packaging was damaged, so I was thinking, oh, I'll save them. But they're made of glass and I'm very clumsy, so I haven't actually used them that much because I'm scared to use them. And the bamboo, I feel like, just soaks in moisture, so it quite limits what I can keep in it, and it just wasn't a good purchase. And we have lots of Tupperware containers, which brings me on to the next regret, which is purchasing new Tupperware containers. We purchased a couple new at the start of the year because we were making more food and having leftovers, and they were great to store leftovers in. But then, like 1 or 2 months later, this girl was moving out and she was getting rid of them for like £1 for 4 of them, and I bought them from her because we still needed some new, but I wish I just never bought them new in the first place. There's probably loads everywhere. I think this was during lockdown though, so charity shops weren't open, so that wasn't an option to look for Tupperware there, and people probably weren't as willing to sell them online. But either way, it is a regret of mine. And another regret from Lidl, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure if I bought this year, but I wanted to include it anyway. It's these little silicone covers for plates and bowls, and I thought this was such a good idea, and I was so happy that something zero waste is being sold in such a common shop. So I got some and I shared them with my mum, and at first they seemed okay, but the second they get slightly wet, which happens a lot when you're covering food up, they just wouldn't stick at all, and I really don't like them. And if you watch my new present video of things I got presents, I'll link it up here. You'll see that I got gifted some much better ones from a friend, which will be of use. And to further continue on being greenwashed and, I wouldn't say scammed, but roped into buying zero waste products, especially from Lidl. I did buy their little produce bags, but I feel like I could have made those myself and cut up material, or just bought some from a sustainable shop, because I know they're made out of plastic and they're not the best quality. When they wash them they go funky, but that is another regret. I really need to stop getting excited when mainstream shops start selling zero waste stuff, because it's probably awful quality and not what you really want. One thing that's really important to me is to not only buy secondhand but also maintain what we have. So I did notice that a lot of our clothing started to form little bubbles. That's probably when you have not the best quality material clothing, but when you buy secondhand, that's not always an option to be picky about. So I decided to look for a clothes razor. I knew my parents owned one and that it was handy, and I'm pretty sure I searched for a secondhand one, but instead I bought one online. It is good and I have used it a lot, and I am going to make the most of it and going to take good care of it. But I do feel like if I waited, I could have found one secondhand, or even purchased one of the non-electric ones that look like a tongue scraper. Anyway, it's still a regret of mine, and I wish I didn't just buy it, because it had a different zero waste purpose without being zero waste itself. And these next two things aren't huge purchases, but I just wish I hadn't bought them. The first one is this jug that I got from IKEA. I really wanted to replace this big punch bowl thing that I used to have, the ones with like a dispenser I bought from a car boot sale, which smashed, and I used to store lots of water in it, or tea if I made loads, and just drink it throughout the day. And I didn't have a large container bigger than a mug. So I did actually look a lot online and I couldn't find it, and this one was affordable, so I purchased it. But then recently, again, in my what I got for Christmas video, I'll show you this cool French press that I got from a charity shop that I picked out to be gifted to me, and that serves the same purpose. It stores a bit less, but you can use loose leaf tea in it very well. So that's a better purchase, and I don't use this one at all anymore. It's just stored in the cupboard, so I really regret buying that. So another impulse buy, because I wanted to make more things from scratch, make my own jams and things like that. I really needed something to be able to transfer things from pots into jars, so I looked for a metal funnel. I doubt I looked for this secondhand. I did buy this one from Amazon though. I did buy it from their warehouse, which is where like damaged goods get sold back, and it was like it has a scratch, so I bought it there. So there's at least that, but I'm not happy that I supported Amazon through it, or didn't wait for a better alternative, because I haven't made too much use of it yet. I am quite busy as a student and I haven't got around to making my own jams yet, or sourcing fruits to make jams that are plastic free anyway. Probably plenty more other things I could rant about that I regret buying. I'm just going to mention two more things that are I kind of regret, but I'm kind of happy I have it. And the first one is this nut milk bag. I purchased this because I started making my own oat milk, and I still do every now and then, but not as commonly. But I'm really happy I have that, because it will serve a lot of uses. The reason I slightly regret this is because I know you can probably make them yourself from cotton t-shirts and things like that, so I wish I thought about that alternative, but I made sure to source this one well, and that it's made from hemp, so it's not too big of a regret. And lastly for my regrets is this blender. Now the stick blender itself I'm really happy about buying. We had to purchase this when our blender and food processor broke, which also went secondhand, but that was before Zero Waste Life. So I did look for secondhand blenders and stick blenders, but I just wasn't happy with the brand that was being sold, because as well as buying secondhand, I always look for good and reliable brands so I know my item will also last. And instead I decided to not just buy any random poor quality blender which I'll have to replace after a year anyway, so I decided to invest in this blender after doing a lot of research, and I'm very happy with the stick blender itself, but not as happy as the accessories it came with. I did have the option of just buying the stick blender, but because we also required a food processor and something to mill down things like breadcrumbs and sugar into icing sugar or powdered sugar, I did want some of the other accessories, but I didn't realize the quality they'd come in, so it really didn't make much sense to me, because the stick blender itself is nice and hefty, made of good material, you can tell it's good quality, but the accessories are just awful, like crappy little thin plastics, and so far they've been useful and they haven't broken, but I just feel much better with alternatives. But we're going to make use of those for now, and then in the future I will make sure not to buy anything that includes accessories and make sure I buy each product very thoughtfully. That is a good lesson learned. So that's all for my regrets, and as I said, there's probably loads more, but these are the main ones. And next off we go to purchases that I made in 2020 of new products that I do not regret and I have really enjoyed using. So to kickstart products I have bought new and I have enjoyed. This is just a common one that many people don't think about, but it's batteries. Now, as you may know, I do try and buy things manually over electric when there is the option. So we have a manual hand whisk instead of an electrical one, and we do up things manually because wasting energy is also being wasteful. But we do have certain things such as our remote control, our things for consoles, clocks and things like that that aren't manual and aren't plugged in, so do require batteries. So I do buy batteries. Of course I can't go for the most sustainable brand because I don't have that much of a budget to be spending on batteries, but I do always make sure that they're reusable. I just don't understand the point of non-reusable batteries. It really makes no sense to me. Why purchase something once that you're going to bin when you can purchase it once and then just charge it up? It makes no sense to me. So this next one we have been considering buying for a long time, and that is a cast iron pot. My boyfriend is really into cooking. I'm more of a baker, but I also enjoy cooking every now and then. And for his birthday, I bought him a cast iron pot. Now, there weren't any locally that we could buy secondhand, and this was a very big investment anyway, and this is probably going to last us our entire life, and we wanted to make sure that we knew everything that had been done to it, because you do need to take good care of cast iron pots, otherwise they'd rust. So we did buy a new one, and it's lasted us a couple months now, and we've really been enjoying it, and it's still looking great, no rust to be seen. So I do regret maybe the packaging it came in, and maybe trying to find a brand that does better packaging, but it was expensive as it was already, so that's one thing that's quite limiting to us as students and being zero waste is the costs, but we're doing the best we can right now. Like I mentioned with clothing, I always try and buy second hand, but in certain cases I have bought new clothes. So I bought these two new t-shirts and a hoodie, which I'll show you in a moment. And the reason I am not regretting these purchases is because they're also memories. I bought these two t-shirts when I was on holiday in February last year, luckily made it before the pandemic hit, and that was on a trip with my university, and it was such an amazing time, and I do enjoy buying things like that, and I don't regret it because I also wear them all the time. They are made from very good materials, 100% cotton. I remember reading the labels before I purchased it. And then the hoodie I also don't regret because it's for my university, and I did actually check if anyone in the local area was selling a Bangor University hoodie. I only have one other hoodie, which is the hoodie from my school when I left school. So that is a compromise that I make, is I do allow myself to get a piece of clothing with a memory revolved around it. So these next two things are brushes, which I wasn't going to include at first, but they were bought new, and I suppose you could maybe buy brushes second hand, but I wanted to make sure that I sourced from good material. I buy these from Boobaloo, which is a kind of zero waste shop online, and I always repurchase the small ones. I also use them in the kitchen, and yeah, if I bought second-hand ones, I guess they would be plastic material and also unclean. Plus, who sells brushes second-hand unless on the rare occasion that they didn't use them, which I highly doubt. And speaking of hygiene, something that me and my boyfriend purchased this year were these tongue scrapers. We wanted to make sure to buy some stainless steel ones that were hygienic because we really care about oral health. And I would like to hear anybody argue that you could buy these secondhand, something that you stick down basically your throat. But we really happy about that purchase. Yeah, it's really effective, and I really recommend for anybody to purchase these as well to help with oral health. It helps clean the tongue, and a lot of dentists recommend it. I think another part of being zero waste is taking care of your health as well, to prevent the NHS and any kind of medical system, whatever the country you're part of, from having to waste resources on you. Like if you had to go to the dentist because you didn't take care of your teeth well enough, then they'll probably have things they can't reuse, that are covered in plastic, just for hygiene purposes. I hope that improves, but either way, we just have to do our best not to have to rely on that. And lastly, I wanted to mention this silicone roller. Now, I was actually looking for one of these when I spotted it. I wanted to find something reusable because I know my parents use those paper ones that you rip off the paper and keep reusing, and my boyfriend has a dog, so whenever we go visit his family, my clothes are always covered in hairs. And of course, in the future, I would love to have pets when I am in a more stable household. So I was looking in the back of my head for things to use, to clean, that were affordable, and we were actually shopping, I think it was in just a general home shop where they have cushions and all that, and on one of the shelves were these. It came with a tiny little one which I always keep in my backpack, and it's this kind of silicone-y rubbery material that is very sticky, but if you wash it, it just comes off, and then when it dries it's sticky again, and it's absolute genius. I think I only paid £2 for it, which is crazy, and this was nearly on my regrets list because the rest of it is made from kind of cheap plastic material, but just take good care of it and it'll be fine. And there was nothing secondhand because not many people use things like this, so hopefully in the future when people do start using them, you might be able to purchase something better, and some companies might make some with sustainable material. But for now, I'm very happy with that purchase. And that finalizes my purchases of 2021. Like I mentioned, I'm not including everything, otherwise would be here for days, but thank you so much for watching. And this also concludes all my videos about 2020, Christmas, and in general, so please make sure you go watch those and check out my other social medias, which will be linked down below. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.